ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Strege, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Galore. I'm your host, David Strege, once again. And before I go on about this review, this is no longer going to be on Inside Movies Galore channel. It will be on the Delusions of Galore review channel, because Inside Movies Galore is a podcast and Delusions of Grandeur is my review site now. So that being said, enjoy the review. Hopefully you enjoy it as great as I did describing it for you. And thank you so much. Don't! So welcome once again to Inside Movies Galore. Normally I'm on talking about films with a group of people, but sometimes I like to go out of the norm and speak about films that I have seen and whatnot. And I figured I'd speak on Laurie Brewster's films to start with, from the UK. And he works with a company called Hex Media, which works with Dark Dunes and some other different companies. And he recently just came out with the Black Gloves. And normally I come on here, throw on a wolf mask, and call myself Wolfman Dave, but I'd rather come out from behind the mask and be myself. And I figured I'd tell a little bit about some of the things that I have watched and whatnot, so that people get an idea of my mindset and what I think and feel, and so on and so forth. So he started with Lord of Tears in 2013, and but I got involved with the Unkindness of Ravens campaign on Kickstarter, and I threw $80 into the film and got both of the sets that kind of look similar to the Black Gloves thing. And right now I can't seem to find where my copies are right now, but I figured I'd talk about them anyways. So the first film is Lord of Tears, and they're written by Sarah Daly, and she's a phenomenal writer, which the first film involves an owl man who, evidently this doctor guy has a dream that he saw an owl man when he was younger, and it scared him to death, so that he couldn't visit his family's home. So in order to deal with his demons, he goes back to the family residence, and he deals with the spiritual presence of this demonic owl-looking creature. And he has images of this beautiful-looking woman who seems to glide down the staircase, and that's kind of like the storyline of that film. And I'd like to watch it again. I watched it once with my fiance, and but I'm more familiar with the Unkindness of Ravens, which was next, and that was in 2016. Now, the Unkindness of Ravens and the Lord of Tears and the Black Gloves all somewhat have the same actors and actresses, so that's something to keep in mind. The main actor being James Scott Gordon, who plays Andrew in the Unkindness of Ravens. He plays an artist who either he's had something happen to him or something of that nature, because he was part of the Vietnam War. So when he came back, he had like a Gulf War type syndrome thing, and he kept seeing ravens. He kept seeing like his buddy or friend in his mind, and he even started speaking with himself. But there were also images of like a raven-like purgatory, which you could see a line of people being led down this dune-like landscape, and they were being whipped or chained or whatnot. And then there was also this ultimately this hallway that he went down, and as he was going down, he saw a group of people chained and being led and tortured and down this hallway. And so I think he was dealing with things that he's done in his past, and it was just definitely a mind trip. And it was just an amazing imagery that you could see in this film, and I think it was one of my favorite films that I'd put money towards, and so on and so forth. But recently, the Black Gloves came out, which is totally different from the other films in retrospect, because it was in black and white, and it was more of a neo-noir type film that was kind of along the original The Haunting or the House on Haunted Hill type film, more of a haunting-like theme. There's this doctor, and he's evidently dressed up like he's from like the 1920s or 30s, because he's got that three-piece suit on, and he has this patient who she's a younger girl, and you see a scene where she's running away. She writes MLK in the sand, and then she either falls or jumps off a cliff from seeing this owl-like creature. Well, he reads up on this this doctor after like a year later or 10 years later or something like that. He also played by Jamie Scott Gordon. He sees in this paper that this prima ballerina has pretty much shut herself up from a fire that has happened while she had performed the Swan Lake ballet, and so he goes, acts like his car breaks down, and he goes and wants to help this young woman. Well, it turns out that he's the one that's haunted, and the lady ballerina director that lives with her loves her to death, and warns her that the doctor doesn't really love her, yada yada yada, and so on and so forth. But I think that this film was definitely had a creep factor in it, and it 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 was definitely a better film this time around, because he went back to some of those Universal roots, or the drive-in routes, and found the atmosphere that he could have with this, and having that Black Swan Darren Aronofsky kind of twist going on with the Owl Man being part of Moloch, which I believe Moloch is a god of some sort, and evidently, if you make some make some kind of wish, or some wishes, or whatnot, you're able to sacrifice something to him, or something to that effect. And I think that the film turned out to be relatively decent, and I think that people will love it down the way. So the other two films that I wanted to talk about was The Mountain Between Us, which is directed by Luc Besson, who evidently in France there are these series of comics that are somewhat of the Valerian nature. So it's actually called Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. From 2017. Now, at the box office, it didn't really do very well. It was in the U.S. The comics haven't really taken off, so there wasn't really a fan base. But watching it recently, the imagery in it is amazing. It almost kind of reminds me of the last time I saw Avatar, or something to the effect of Blade Runner, at least in the cities that they were going through. But here's the storyline of Valerian. Evidently, these two young kids, teenagers, I would say, but they probably consider them adults, which those are played by we've got Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne playing Major Valerian and Sergeant Laureline, and they are two partners who evidently are like part of this top secret organization who we see in the beginning of the film all these different alien races coming together at one specific point, where they all shake hands, and it's kind of funny in the beginning. Well, in any case, they're on a mission of some sort. He's flirting with her. She's somewhat flirting with him, but he's got some kind of like list of women that evidently he's had as partners, and she doesn't want to be part of that list. Well, in any case, the main villain ends up being Clive Owen, who is like a 5-star general who evidently at one point in time had been part of killing the planet that this blue alien race had lived on at one point in time. But this race of beings that was before everyone's time kind of survived, and they went on to learn about humanity and humans and whatnot, and they decided to find the bits and pieces that would create their world again. But that general was trying to squelch any evidence of this massacre that they knew about when this happened, and that's what Valerian. That's what Major Valerian discovers. And what he discovers is that when this alien race, this princess died, she sent her soul to an individual for safekeeping, and it ended up being Major Valerian. So ultimately, he has an adventure to save his partner, the sergeant, who has been captured while he has been getting himself into trouble, and so on and so forth. And we also have Rihanna, who plays an interesting creature in here too. She plays Bubble, which evidently she's a quick change alien. Evidently, you can wear this this avatar type creature on you at any given point in time and be whoever you want, like a suit. And I think that that character, I wish that they had built more on that character or whatnot. But ultimately, it's all about this one small creature that looks like it's kind of in between dragon and a cat, and it pretty much spoofs Skittles to evidently create whatever the alien ship needs to create the world in the end. The next feature that I'd like to talk about is the mountain between us, which stars Kate Winslet from Titanic and Heavenly Creatures, which was directed by Jackson. But this one is actually directed by Hani Abu Assad, which for 2017, we've got Idris Elba, Kate Winslet, Beau Bridges, Dermot Mulroney. I mean, come on, what kind of a stellar cast is that? That is a freaking awesome cast. I mean, we got two people who end up missing their flights, or their flights get canceled. Ben Bass and Alex Martin, and one of them is a photographer. That would be Kate Winslet's character, Alex Martin, and we've got Idris Elba, who plays Ben Bass, who's a doctor who evidently at one point in time was married, because we see a ring on his finger. Well, in any case, Kate's character, Alex, she suggests that they go and take a private jet to where they need to be. She's on her way to a wedding of some sort. He's on his way to a patient, and their pilot, Walter, and the dog that is involved. He's kind of cute, kind of a bingo-looking character. But Beau Bridges' character, Walter, has a heart attack, and the plane goes down. And when they awake, they're somewhat angry with each other, but then Idris Elba's character, Ben Bass, goes off to try to search for where they are, and while Kate Winslet's character, Alex Martin, is in the plane hurt. She gets attacked by some of the natural elements that are happening, and then they have to brave their way across the countryside. And the film is cinematically beautiful. There are definitely cool shots of the mountain scenery and whatnot. The only thing about this film is that it is very predictable in what happens. And you see Kate's character. Her hair should be a little bit, or her appearances and his appearances. Well, I think his appearances actually look more natural, but Kate's appearances seem to be, their characters don't seem to be looking like they're going through a state of survival, and that's a little misleading. So ultimately, in the end, I mean, it is a romance. So it's not about. They made it more about the romance of the aspect, and not about the survival of or the things that happened to them while they were there. They made it more about, the feelings behind it, not about the fact that they went through these horrors. So I mean, it started out very violent, and I liked that, but then it's like they turned that off and turned it into a romance of sorts. So in any case, those are the films that I wanted to discuss, and these are my thoughts. Hopefully, you enjoyed the descriptions of them, and at least in my aspect or whatnot. So. Hopefully you have a good evening and enjoyed listening. Thank you, everyone out there, for subscribing, and definitely keep a lookout for tomorrow. I've got an interview lined up for to talk with Matt Jasel from the Vid Evil Entertainment or production company that he has with Necrophiles and Necrophiles 3000. So definitely take a look out for that. So hopefully you have enjoyed listening, all you listeners, and hopefully keep watching films.
No, they're even more powerful than we thought.